Started school, something terrible happened. The World Trade Center and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. were attacked by terrorists and many people died. We all were shocked, very sad, angry, and even scared about the future. Many of us still are feeling that way after 9/11. We all had to come to school every day and do our best. It wasn't an easy job for many of us. So what do? We helped each other because that is what a strong community does. We talked about the tragedy with each other, expressed our feelings in our art, writing, and song, raised money for victims' families, collected supplies for rescue workers, and sent out thanks. Reached out to other families who lost loved ones and leaned on one another for support when we had to. We did all these things because that's what a strong community does when necessary. Today we gather together one last time to remember what happened in September, to celebrate the strength of our community, to remind each other we all must work hard to build a safe and caring world, and to share the goodness that is present here at Sycamore and among the Sycamore families. I'd like all of us to remove our hats. We're going to be leading the song with the 6th grade Silvana Alfonso, musical accompanied by 6th grade Andy McKenna and Bobby Killian on trombones with director John McNally. Can everyone please stand up?
Excuse me, we're silent. Remember.
Dr. Larrier, our superintendent, we asked him to come to speak to us on what students need to learn from 9/11 tragedy and the personal sacrifices of all those who rushed to help. Dr. Larrier?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Garrison, Mr. Kubik, and members of the faculty, and ladies and gentlemen, parents, and boys and girls. First of all, I'd like, on behalf of the entire Connecticut family, to welcome Mrs. Mahoney and recognize Billy and Joey, and also Shannon and Denise, who couldn't be here today because they have exams at OBJ in the high school, but the Mahoney family is with us today, all of you. And boys and girls, when Mr. Kubik and Mrs. Garrison asked me to be here today to talk about what September 11th meant to us, I had many thoughts, and I'd like to share them with you. It is bittersweet. It is bitter because we have lost many loved ones who have made the supreme sacrifice of surrendering their life so that others can be safe. That's the bitterness. But the sweetness comes from knowing what America is all about. We got to where we are today as a great nation because we were able to overcome adversity and hardship and pain. Millions of Americans before us have made the supreme sacrifice of their lives for liberty and freedom. And that's what we celebrate in this country, liberty and freedom. And sometimes we use the expression tough love. Well, tough love is what today is all about as we look upon the past, but more importantly, look to the future, because the future is bright, and you are that future. So when we come together, and Mrs. Garrison spoke about the Connecticut Sycamore community, but it goes deeper than that, my colleagues and boys and girls. It goes deeper than that. We are the family of America. And the family is a very important concept because we share each other's joys and we carry each other's burdens. And that's what family is all about. In America, when we celebrate, we have a tradition of celebrating at parades. We share joy. In America, we also carry each other's burdens. And the tradition of this country has always been to carry each other's burdens fairly and equitably. Not only through the joys of good times, but more importantly, during the difficult times of tears and tribulation. So America is the family all of us belong to. And what better time to reflect on its history as well as its future as we come today to look upon September 11 and the lessons that it represents for our future. So let us look proudly back on the sacrifices of so many good people, like the Mahoneys, and like 30 other people from this community, and like thousands of other Americans who perished on that day. So let us look back proudly on the sacrifices so many good people made to overcome the trials and tears of our time. Let us look around gratefully at the many ways that all of these wonderful people found to make a better world for us and for you, our children, our greatest hope for the future. Let us look around confidently to opportunities that await us and to problems and challenges that are ours to solve. That is the American spirit. And let us remember always that we are members of a family worth loving and preserving, a family to be proud of and thankful for every day of our lives, and this family is called America. And it's symbolized by this small group today. It goes beyond Sycamore. It goes beyond Connecticut. It is the family of New York, the family of America. And that is what America is all about. And boys and girls, the people who perished on September 11 could be considered ordinary Americans like us, who got up in the morning and said goodbye to their loved ones to go to work and to go to school and to go about their daily life as an American. So we say, yeah, they were ordinary people, but they were extraordinary. And extraordinary people are ordinary people who do extra things. And that's why we call them extraordinary. Extraordinary. People who go the extra mile. And that makes all the difference. So we as Americans, what lesson do we learn from the supreme sacrifice of Mr. Mahoney and all of his brothers and sisters and all of the Americans who perished? on September 11th. We do not choose to be common people. And I want to talk to you briefly about that. As Americans, it is our right to be uncommon. And what do we mean by uncommon? We seek opportunity in America, not just security. We do not wish to be kept citizens, humbled and dulled by having the state or the country look after us. We as Americans take the calculated risk, like all of those firefighters and police officers who went into the towers knowing that they had to save lives at the risk of losing their own. They took the calculated risk. Like the men and women right now who are out of this country in Afghanistan, protecting liberty and freedom, they take the calculated risk. Like the men and women in blue every morning, whether they're EMS, firefighters, police officers, every morning when they put on that uniform and they leave their home to go out to protect us so that we can have a better life and a secure life, they take the calculated risk. And it is Americans who dream and build and want to succeed. That is uncommon, and that is what it is to be an American. Also, as Americans, the lesson from September 11, we refuse, as Americans, to trade motivation for a mere handout. We prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of just staying in the same place. And what's more importantly, to know as Americans that we will not trade liberty and freedom for material benefits, nor will we trade our dignity and our principles for personal gain and individual popularity. But more importantly, we are uncommon because September 11 has taught us that we, as Americans, just as the heroes who went into the towers, will never cower before any master or terrorist or evildoer or bend to any threat, even the threat of terrorism, because the family of America makes that threat diminish as we stay together and we stay strong. So it is our heritage, particularly during difficult times, to stand erect as Americans, to stand proud, and to stand unafraid as the family of America, and to think and act for ourselves and enjoy the benefits of our creations and face the world boldly and say, this is what we have done as uncommon Americans, the greatest country on the face of the earth, the miracle of a place called America. And that's what you should remember, boys and girls. This is what it all means to be an American. So yes, we have pain and sorrow, but yes, we have the tradition of the American spirit that keeps us free and alive with liberty and freedom. But more than that, we have you. You are our future. You are our future, and the men and women who made the sacrifice on that dreadful day should always be etched in your mind as your role models, your heroes, so that they can give you the inspiration to carry on as extraordinary Americans, uncommon Americans, because you are truly our future. That is the lesson of September 11th. And we have great hope for you, and we want you to go forward knowing that you should never be afraid. You should always feel secure as an American because you have the blessing to live in the greatest land, on the greatest country, in the only land we know, the family of America. May God bless you, and may God bless America.
Good morning. We would like to thank Dr. Larry for taking the time to share this special tribute and for his well-spoken, heartfelt thoughts. Thank you, Dr. Larry, for being a welcomed and supportive member of the Sycamore family. For those of you that are not familiar with us, my name is Mr. Aquilina, and to my left is Mrs. Every. We are both sixth grade teachers. As members of the Team 6 teachers that also include Ms. Renazizi and Ms. Oppenheim, it was an easy decision for us to decide to have the sixth graders create and be a part of some type of tribute to honor Mr. Mahoney, so that his memory and the values he stood for were not forgotten. Two of Mr. Mahoney's children are Sycamore Avenue students, Billy, who is in sixth grade, and Joey, who is in third. Mr. Mahoney was a firefighter who was trying to save the victims of September 11th, of the September 11th attack on the World Trade Centers, but he did not survive. On that tragic day, we lost someone very special to this community. Today we honor Mr. Mahoney for the values that he stood for as a father, firefighter, and an active, respected member of our community. He lived by and modeled the values of bravery, courage, commitment to children and family, love of family and friends, dedication, service, and sportsmanship. These are the very same values that we want to remember and to be a part of the Sycamore Avenue community. I would like to ask Joey Simisich, who is a sixth grader and a personal friend of Billy's and the Mahoney's, to join us up at the podium to read a tribute he wrote to Mr. Mahoney, a role model, friend, and a baseball coach. Joey, would you please come up?
If there were one man in this world that I would choose to admire, other than my own father, it would be Mr. Mahoney. Planting this tree today in memory of him and everything he stood for reminds me of what a wonderful man he was to look up to. There are many characteristics about Mr. Mahoney that I will share with you today in hopes that all of the future students of Sycamore will see this tree and remember all of the values that this man stood for. One of the first things I learned from Mr. Mahoney was to be generous. Not with money or materialistic things, but with yourself. He risked his life every day for people that he didn't know just because he liked helping people. Through his generosity came bravery and courage. He spent his life always putting other people's lives ahead of his own. I hope he's always remembered for that. Devotion and loyalty are another two characteristics that describe Mr. Mahoney. Not only was he devoted to protect his community, but he was always loyal to his commitment to the baseball team. He coached by not missing any practices or any games. It was also very important to him that he didn't miss any special events in his family life. And finally, Mr. Mahoney always taught us to have a sense of humor. For example, when one of us would strike out at the plate, he would try to make us laugh by saying he was going to give us the K hat. He also never got angry like many other coaches. He would just try to make a joke about it. Mr. Mahoney was a man who stood for respect. He never used inappropriate language, nor let us say anything rude or hurtful to another person. He stood for so many other strong values that it would take all day to name them all. I hope that planting this tree here today will remind everyone that not only was Mr. Mahoney a great firefighter, a great coach, but he was just an all-around good man.
To Mr. Mahoney and the values he stood for, we have planted this majestic golden ash. When you look at it or take shelter under its strong branches filled with leaves that embrace you and protect you from the sun's heat, remember who and what this tree represents. At this time, we would like to ask Andrew McKenna, Joey Simisich, Billy and Joey Mahoney to come up to unveil the memorial plaque that sits at the base of the tree. Gentlemen. As a legacy left by the sixth graders, the plaque reads, Sycamore's class of 2002 remembers firefighter William J. Mahoney Jr., our hero. At this time, I would also like to announce that a special plaque will be hung in the main hallway of Sycamore in remembrance of September 11th and Mr. Mahoney. Under the direction of Mr. Trulio, the chorus will now sing the song Heroes. Mr. Trulio.
What can you say to a hero? To someone who gives so much? What can you say to a hero? To someone who seeks life's to touch? We can say thank you. Oh, we can say thank you, thank you. We know God blesses you for all you did and do. We've seen your light shine through, and we are all blessed too. You are our heroes. What can you say to a hero? To someone who's always there? What can you say to a hero? To someone who seeks life's to care? We can say thank you. Oh, we can say thank you. We know God blesses you for all you did and do. We've seen your light shine through, and we are all blessed too. You are our heroes. You are our heroes. You are our heroes. Thank
Thank you, sixth graders and Mr. Trulio. That was beautiful. Now I'd like to ask everyone to bow their heads as we all observe a moment of silence to respect and acknowledge the values that Mr. Mahoney represented.
Thank you. Today we come together to acknowledge the loss of an important member of our community, but we also look ahead to the future. In the same spirit that Mr. Mahoney lived and celebrated life with his family and friends, as a community we gain strength from believing and creating a safe, happy, and healthy future together. It is so important that we hold true to our dreams and look forward to the future with renewed hope. For a writing assignment, we asked the sixth graders to write what they felt to be their message of hope for the future. Just to give you an example of what they came up with, I would like the following students to please come forward to read their message of hope. Thomas Coffey, Erin Leary, Amanda Warren, and Heather Rogers. Please come up.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Coffey. I remember September 11th. I was in school on the way to gym. Since Mr. Pro had a radio on, we heard what had happened. At first I wasn't afraid or sad, but when I got home and saw it on TV, I was scared. I hope that no one ever has to go through that again. I hope that in the future there will be no terrorism. I know that might not happen for a long time, but I hope that it eventually will. The one good thing that came from this tragedy was that everyone came together and we fought through as one country, one city, united. I wish for a country to stay united like we are right now. Finally, the one last thing I learned from this tragedy was to never ever take my family for granted.
Good morning, my name is Erin Leary. Here are my hopes for the future. I hope for the future that wars will be a thing of the past, simply words put into a textbook. But I also hope for the future that people will understand the seriousness of it all. Wars are real. People suffered. I hope for the future that there will be no more terrorism. People won't live with that fear, not worrying about attacks, not worrying about even crime. I hope for the future that there will be world peace. I hope for the future that there will be freedom.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Warren. I hope that everyone will heal from the day that we lost so many lives due to the terrorist attack on September 11th. Although we cannot see the victims again, we can all remember them and what they did in our hearts and our minds. Someone once told me that you have to remember the good times that you had with them and not the bad times. So we have to look back at all the good times and always be optimistic. A lesson that the tragedy taught the United States was to be more aware of things and take threats more seriously. Next time, if an event ever takes place like 9/11, we will be more prepared so that more people will come home to their families.
Good morning. My name is Heather Rogers. When I asked the question, what are my hopes for the future, I had to sit and really give it some deep thought. I do wonder about my hopes for the future. I know I strive and will continue to work very hard toward a career as a writer. If I can share my love for writing and literature and have my works inspire others around me, then I'll know I have fulfilled my desire to become a well-known author. But my hopes for the future of the world are much more complex and sometimes seem not so easily attainable as the goals for myself. I hope for the future of tomorrow to be a world where technology plays an essential part in the discovery for cures for what seems to be diseases that are taking more lives now than ever before. I wish for a world for people to feel the comfort of knowing that there is safety in the foods they eat and the water that they drink, to feel safe in their travels while merely living for the day. What a wonderful feeling to know that the hatred and animosity in our homeland and abroad will be abolished completely. My future depends on me. The future of the world depends on all of us working together in complete brotherhood. A bright, hopeful future of tomorrow begins with the works and attitudes of today.
The children wrote some beautiful speeches, did a great job. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Falater to deliver our closing remarks. Mr. Falater is our senior teacher on our faculty. He has served in our school and in this community for 30 years. Mr. Falater?
Good morning to all of you assembled here on this, what turned out to be a beautiful morning. Thank you for giving me the pleasure and the privilege of speaking to you today. I was raised in Oakdale, and my history with the home of Bohemia begins long before there was a Sycamore Avenue School, before there was a Connecticut High School, before Sunrise Highway or the Expressway were extended. When these lands on which we now stand were woods, fields, pure. The only school in Bohemia was what is now called the John Pearl School. The children who attended that school were just like you. They went to school each day, came home, did their homework, did their chores, and played. Their parents, like yours, went to work, took care of the home, shopped, cooked. You know, all of that normal stuff. The people who lived in the hamlet of Bohemia had a strong sense of community and relied on each other in many different ways.